professors that are presenting today are. But just for the benefit of our recorded information, I'd like to read for you at least an introduction of who they are so that you know exactly who you have making this presentation. The presentation today, as you see on the smartboard here, is a cognitive theoretical perspective in studies in forensic documentation examination, or document examination. The presentation will focus on these specific areas this afternoon. One, there will be a discussion of relationship between psychological perspectives and the study of forensic science. And also a demonstration of how eye tracking data are understood and analyzed in the context of forensic document examination. A demonstration of an eye tracking protocol will be presented, and some of the findings from the study will be discussed. Who are doing the presentation? Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce to you the two eminent scholars at Kentucky State University. First, Dr. Mara Malino is a graduate of the interdisciplinary PhD program in the social psychology at the University of Nevada, Reno, and is qualified to teach in both psychology and sociology. Most of you have had her in your classes. She is an ongoing member of the graduate faculty and the judicial studies program, the only academic PhD and master's degree granting program for the nation's judiciary, the only one. The program is offered jointly by the National Judicial College, the National Council of Juvenile and Family Court Judges, and the University of Nevada, Reno. Dr. Malino's research interests include the social construction of the admissibility of expert witnesses and expert testimony, the reliability and validity of various areas of forensic science, jury research, judicial use of court-appointed experts, and the influences of sex and race on sentencing decisions. She has numerous publications and presentations at national and international scenes. These are very important areas of her preparation. So I am very confident that her presentation this afternoon will be particularly very helpful to you. Dr. Tiara Freeman earned her PhD in educational psychology at the University of Kentucky and her master's in clinical psychology at Towson University. Dr. Freeman is currently the program coordinator at Kentucky State University, psychology program. Her research interests include the relationship between resilience and student success in such areas as student retention, goal achievement, and the students' sense of belongingness in a college setting. She has served as an internal evaluator for the University of Kentucky Graduate School, a research analyst at the University of Kentucky College of Education Department of Administration and Supervision, and a research analyst for the Department of Educational Policy Studies at the University of Kentucky. She has conducted numerous evaluation studies for a variety of organizations and has taught developmental psychology, learning and motivation, statistics, and research methods at both the graduate and undergraduate levels. When you talk about people who are prepared to do research in these areas and conduct what they are doing here, preparing you for the future, you cannot have asked for better prepared and positioned faculty members. So, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Dr. Mara Malino and Dr. Tiara Freeman.
kind introduction. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you today. I'm so happy to see so many of our students out there in the audience. I'm very excited to talk about the work that we've been doing here for the last couple of years. It's been a long haul. We're reaching the end of the road now. Hopefully by December 31st, that's my drop dead day for turning in the final report for this project. So we're getting down to the end, and we're starting to get to the interesting point of having some things to present, so finally having some data, which Dr. Freeman is going to have the pleasure of trying to make some sense out of here before too long, because she doesn't have enough to do already. As Dr. Oleka said, our topic today is cognitive theoretical perspectives in studies of forensic document examination. I'd like to take an opportunity to acknowledge my colleagues who are not here. With Dr. Freeman and myself, Dr. Ronnie Dare and Ms. Vicki Springer from the University of Nevada worked on the survey component of this project. Mr. Derek Hammond from the United States Army Criminal Investigation Laboratory is a forensic document examiner who was an advisor on the project. Adrian Dyer from the Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology in Australia is our vision scientist who worked on the project. And Dr. Brian Found, he's the lead forensic scientist at the Victoria Police Forensic Services Department, and also in Australia. Excuse me, are colleagues on this project, and it's been wonderful to work with them. It's been they're great scholars, and it's been a joy to be associated with them. As we do the presentations, we always this project is funded by the National Institute of Justice, and the award number is there. We always have to demonstrate this information. And I also would like to take a minute to acknowledge our undergraduate research assistants, many of whom have graduated. We still have one or two left who are among the old guard, but our assistant Sierra Alexander, who was my lead assistant on the project, Kara Francis, Kara Floyd, Nick Williams, Larice Jackson, Sedata Smothers, Melissa Pickett, and Ina Malyuk. Thank you so much to those undergraduate students who spent long hours and worked very, very hard to get the project to where it is today. And finally, special thanks to our colleagues who are the professional examiners in the field who found the time out of their busy schedules to come and participate in our project, spend a day and a half with us sharing their knowledge and expertise. It was amazing that they could find the time to do this, and so we would like to take this opportunity to thank them as well. So, just to orient you a little bit about what forensic science is and what forensic document examination entails. What you see on CSI is enough to make any professional in the field kind of laugh, because it's so not what forensic science is about. Within the field, actually, they joke occasionally that it's so dark in their labs that they forgot to pay the light bills on TV. So the actual fields are very, very different from what you may perceive. And so this is just one of the fields where you may have some ideas about what document examiners do. I like to distinguish for you right now the difference between a forensic document examiner and a graphologist. Graphology is not a science. Graphology is the idea that you can take somebody's signature and you can determine personality characteristics based on the features in that individual's signature. There is no empirical evidence to support this claim. And if you ask a forensic document examiner if they do that kind of work, they will kind of sneer at you because it's very looked down on in the field. What they actually do is a wide variety of tasks that don't all involve signature identification, which is what we're going to be talking about today. So how do they do what they do with respect to that signature identification task? Okay, there are a variety of different things that they look at. Let me catch up to myself with my notes. Okay. The first thing that they do is to evaluate a specimen or a set of specimens that they've been given. If the questioned signature that they've been given, now a question signature is one who you don't know the identity of the writer, and that's the whole object. You try to figure out whether the person who actually wrote this signature in question is the same person who produced a set of known signatures, the true, genuine signatures of that individual. Okay, so forensic document examiners will look to see if the question signature is suitable for evaluation and evaluate it for the type of writing, and then they'll evaluate the writing for its internal consistency. They evaluate the range of variation within the set of specimens that they are given, and they evaluate these for the presence or absence of features for comparison. They conduct side-by-side comparisons of comparable question and known writings. Then they determine whether there are dissimilarities, similarities, or absent characters within the set of specimens. They evaluate the significance of those features individually and in combination. They determine if there's a sufficient quantity of questioned and or known writings. The questioned writing, of course, is the one that we're trying to figure out who wrote it. The known writings are the ones that we already know who wrote it. So they have to have a sufficient number of those to be able to make a determination about whether the questioned writing is written by the same person. If there's a sufficient quantity, then they'll do the evaluation, reach a conclusion, and then they'll report the conclusion to the courts, either in the form of expert testimony, or they may write an expert opinion and submit that. Okay, so it's very easy to actually describe the process of what forensic document examiners do, but the larger question is exactly how do they do that? What processes are in play when they sit down to do this? And this was the purpose of our study. Okay. As I said, we were awarded a pretty good-sized chunk of money from the National Institute of Justice to study the validity and the reliability of the methodology and findings of forensic document examination. So the purpose of our research was to actually investigate something where very little research had been done. We are actually doing the validation work for these techniques that have actually been used by the courts for a long time. So the purpose of our study was to inform and expand the empirical research that already exists in the area, using a multidisciplinary and a multimodal design. Okay, so I just threw out some terms there, and a lot of you out there in the audience are students, so I'm going to explain that a little bit. Multidisciplinary, of course, means that we have scholars from a number of fields who are contributing to the knowledge. Multimodal means that we're using a variety of data collection methods in order to get this study done. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. Okay. The study is designed to investigate the three important issues that you see up here. The existence and nature of expertise. So is there actually a field of expertise that you can learn and be taught and trained to do? And how is that related to forensic document examination generally? The next thing is we're looking at the evaluation and interpretation by forensic document examiners of signature specimens to see how they, what do they find that's particularly diagnostic within those signatures? What do they attend to? Why do they attend to it? And what weight do those features carry? The final thing that we're looking at is the social influences that are inherent in the context. And by social influences, what we're talking about is the idea that document examiners, when they do their jobs, work in labs and they work with other examiners. And part of the procedure that they do is called a technical review, or a peer review, if you will. And it's a sequential review. So one examiner will look at a signature, they will make a determination, write up their findings, and they'll give it to the guy at the next desk and say, here, this is what I found. Do you think that I'm right? Well, that social interaction may not make for the best empirical science because, are you really going to contradict your buddy at the next desk? If you know the outcome of the examination, are you going to really take the time and effort to give it a careful second look? So So there are some empirical questions there that need to be studied. So here's how we've done what we've done so far. The project has been conducted in several stages. In stage one, we asked our participants to either call in or go online at the University of Nevada, Reno. We had a website posted at the Center for Research, Design, and Analysis, and it was run by Ronnie and Vicki over in Reno. And so they logged on, and they gave us some basic information about their education, how long they've been in the field, where do you work, what kind of training did you have, because all those things could be important factors with respect to how they do what they do. So that was the first part of the study. The second thing that we had them do, was to come to campus. Well, originally we had planned to have them come to campus. We had to change that protocol up a little bit in the middle because we found that they were having a hard time getting away for the length of time that we needed them to come to campus. So ultimately, last semester, I packed up a bunch of students and we went on the road to various places and worked with groups of document examiners in teams. So we went up to Canada, worked with the document examiners in the lab at the Canada Border Patrol Agency. We went to Quantico, Virginia, and worked with examiners from the FBI. We were in Florida, Minnesota, all over the place. San Diego, Washington State. Dr. Freeman and I went up to Washington State and worked with the State Patrol there. So it was quite an adventure to get the data collected for this second stage. Stage 3 actually is part of stage 2. We do it at the same time. After they do all the protocols that we have on the eye tracker, we ask the examiners to sit down with us and actually talk about what they did with a subset of 11 signatures, so the question known comparisons. We asked them to sit down with us and describe to us what they did and just talk us through as though they were going to explain it to a jury, what they saw and what they did with that information. How did they use the features in that signature? So this is our Tobii eye tracker, essentially. It's upstairs in the lab. Anybody who wants to come up and see the Tobii actually in use is welcome to come to the lab, and we will be happy to do a demonstration. As you can see, it just looks like a computer monitor. Down here in this little triangular section of the monitor are infrared lights. The machine beams infrared light into the retinas of the person who's sitting in front of it. So it comes up at this angle, beams in there, and up here on the top there's a recording device. The device actually records the reflection of that infrared light from your retina. And so we can follow your eyes around as they move around on the screen. And what you see over there on your left, my right, is actually an image of somebody's retinas looking back at the Tobii. So if you blink, they blink. If you tilt your head, they tilt your head. They're kind of friendly, and it's kind of fun. So we showed on the eye tracking system, displayed on the screen of the eye tracker, we showed a variety of signatures. And when I spoke earlier about having the examiners identify the type of signature that they were working with, this is what I was referring to. As you can see, there are 3 types of signatures that examiners will classify the signatures into. The text-based ones you can read fairly readily. It's fairly obvious what the letters are. You can make them out even though they're not what examiners would call copybook style. Okay. The mixed signatures, you can see some letter formations in there. Can't make it all out, so there's a little bit of stylization in there. And finally, over here on this side, under the stylized, you can see that there is absolutely nothing recognizable about anything about those signatures or those marks that people make. This one down here is actually known as a firma. In certain cultures, you have 2 ways of identifying yourself. You have a written signature, which looks like the text-based ones on the one side, and then you have your mark, which is called a firma, and you create this mark, and it is your individualizing identification mark, and you use that to sign documents. very, very difficult if you look at the structures there to forge in these cases. Okay, so in the eye tracking protocol, we did a series of different protocols. We did 4 different procedures using the eye tracker. Okay. What you see here is one of the signatures that we used for our single signature protocol. Okay. Now always the object of the game is to try to figure out whether the signature is a genuine signature or a simulated signature of some kind. So it could be forged or traced or disguised. For the purposes of the single signature protocol, we showed people, it was not a comparison, we showed them only one signature. They got to look at it for as long as they wanted to, and then we would ask them to tell us the process decision or how that signature was created. So was it genuine, simulated, or inconclusive, means that I can't tell. And then we would ask them on a Likert type scale from 1 to 4, 1 being not at all, 4 being, extremely confident. How confident are you that your decision is the correct one? Okay. So we asked them, what do you think and how strong is your opinion? How confident are you in that? Okay, what do you guys think? Is that a genuine or a simulated signature? What do you say? What makes you think so? Not sure why, but it just does, right? Okay, so there are a lot of breaks, some shakiness in the line quality maybe. You would be amazed at what forensic document examiners can pick out of that. They use so many facets of this. For example, what you see here is a little bit of feathering, but this is a straight and heavy line. A blunt beginning and a heavy line indicates to a forensic document examiner that this is a signature that is drawn rather than freely and naturally written. So they use that as an indicator. Okay? What you see here could be a pen lift. So did you start up here? It looks to me like the entry stroke is right here. We've got a little bit of a retrace, a little hesitation here, maybe some pen gooping. That actually is a technical term, gooping. Okay? And then the thing sweeps up and goes off to the right. Now here's an indication that it could possibly be naturally written, however. Can you guys guess why? Okay, not only did the pen not move, okay, here's the blunt stroke that comes down, but typically, when you're doing an upstroke, you'll see these striations in the line, so that sort of lightening in the line, that indicates pen speed. And so perhaps this person actually is moving at a fairly rapid rate, but this person could be an older person, so there might be some tremor in the handwriting. So those are all things that forensic document examiners might use to make a call on this signature. Do it this way. Okay, that's protocol number 1. We showed them a variety of sets of those, and they made calls on 30 of those single signatures, or one-ups we sometimes call them. The second protocol that we did on the eye tracker was the actual questioned and known comparison. And the way that we conducted this procedure is that we seat them in front of the eye tracker and we show them first. Actually, what you're looking at here are two slides, 2 different slides. So the first slide that we showed them are these knowns. Okay, these are the true known signatures of Tiffany Law Barbara. We know that Tiffany Law Barbara wrote that. That's her genuine signature, freely and naturally written. Okay? The examiners were allowed to look at that for as long as they wanted to, and then we, when they were ready, we switched them over to the comparison slide. So they saw this next. Here is our question signature. Our question signature always appears in this position. The known signatures always appear at the bottom, which is why this slide looks the way that it does. We're trying to keep things consistent. Okay, so based on what you see there, is it a genuine or a simulated signature? A little harder to tell. Anybody hazard a guess? Simulated. What makes you think so? Okay, so pictorially they look different, right? Okay. Now a professional examiner will actually go into those signatures, and I'm going to show you a slide of what they actually do with this set of signatures in a little while. Okay. Our third procedure that we did in the Toby lab, and Toby is our eye tracker, by the way, is what we called our tachistoscope extended view. T-scope for short, for obvious reasons. I can't even say it sometimes. A tachistoscope is an instrument that's used in cognitive psychology to display an array of stimuli for a very, very brief period of time, less than a second, parts of seconds, very quick display of information. Okay? So, what we did with this particular protocol is we took a set of 10 signatures. We put 10 of them right side up and 10 of them upside down. Okay? Why would we do that? Upside down. Any idea? No idea. Okay. It's because when you are presenting something right side up, you're providing a cognitive context. You can actually read this name. But if I turn that signature upside down, it's much more challenging for you to read the name, and you're forced to process it at a different level. So you're actually using a different kind of process. So we presented 10 signatures right side up, 10 signatures upside down. The first presentation of the signature was the tachistoscope view, the T-scope view. So we gave them the luxury of looking at these signatures for a whole second before the signature went away and the slide changed. And then we asked them to give us a call whether they thought that it was genuine or simulated. Asked them to give us a confidence call on that one. Then we went back and let them have an extended view of the signature. So in that respect, that was just like the single signatures. They could look at it for as long as they wanted to. And when they were done, they said so, and then they made a call, the same call, is it genuine or simulated? And then we asked them for their confidence level on that. And I'm actually going to show you some data from that, from this protocol. Okay. Our fourth eye tracking protocol is what we called the peer review. This is where we were actually doing some research with respect to that third important research question, the social aspects. So we were telling them, we were giving them a previous call, and then we were seeing actually if they would change the call that they had previously made to match up with the information that they had been given. And in fact, we did find in a lot of cases that they would move their opinions around based on what they had heard. But they muddied the water too, because some of them just spontaneously changed. So, we're going to have to take a really careful look at that when we analyze those data. Okay. Our final step in this process was to do those qualitative interviews that I talked about. So we asked them, what are you doing? What are you looking at? What does it mean to you? So, and we would get their own data, so we would show them their gaze plots and heat maps, and I'm going to show you some examples of those here in a few minutes. And we would ask them to talk us through what they did. What are you looking at? What did you do with that information? So how much information did it provide? How important was it for the overall decision that you made on your signature? And at this point, we also gave them the opportunity to discuss with us any other aspect of the research that they had comments or questions about. Anytime you do a study like this, you should always let your participants have the last word. So they'll give you feedback, you're able to address any concerns or questions that they may have. In many studies, you'll take this opportunity to debrief your participants about what the hypotheses were, so on and so forth. We could not do that here because, for obvious reasons, they communicated with each other, and we don't want the correct answers to get out. So we haven't yet been able to debrief our participants, but we will when our data collection is finished. The discussions, we recorded them digitally, and then we are transcribing those interviews, and we are coding them to be able to work with them on our SPSS spreadsheet. Okay, so getting now down to that how question. How do forensic document examiners do what they do? Okay, what you're seeing right here is an example of what we call gaze plots. This is actual data from the eye tracking system. And what each of these dots means, these are called, where every one of those dots are, that's called a fixation. So we're actually watching the movement of the examiner's eyes to various points on these signatures. Okay? So what can we know? Well, we need to start at a very basic level with respect to understanding how they do what they do. And so let's start with the idea of attention. What is attention? Think back to your intro.
Somebody in 409.
Anybody in 409? Anybody from intro side? What is attention? I'm going to read you the formal definition of attention. Attention is defined as the sustained focus of cognitive resources on information while filtering out or ignoring extraneous information. Okay. Attention is a precursor to, or it comes before, all other neurological or cognitive functions. So in order to be working on something cognitively, you first have to attend to it, notice it in some way. Okay? So the question here is, what do we attend to with respect to this stuff? Now what you may notice, there are some interesting things about these particular sets of signatures. Okay? What's going on here? These are fixations. The bigger the dot, the longer a person's gaze was there. Okay? So we have a bunch of little tiny dots. You can see that they're focusing on certain things. You can see there are some differences going on here. These are the known signatures, so these are where they were learning the characteristics of the signatures. And down here you see that they picked some things out that they are going to do comparisons are. And so we see these referral saccades. You also see some referral saccades up here, this jumping back and forth from the question to the known. Okay? But what do you notice? Something a little quirky about these gaze plots. Okay, closer together. What I'm reaching for is what's going on down here where all these plots are falling above the signature. What's that about? Anybody take a guess on that one? No. Okay, she gives. Not because they're closer together. These things are actually falling above, and you can see it in both instances. And when we looked at this, these are actual data from one of our pilot examiners. And so we were looking at that, and I saw that, and I thought, oh, what's going on with my Toby? What's going on with my eye tracker? And so we went back and we checked the calibration, and we recalibrated her and worked on that, and she could put her gaze right where we wanted her to put it. So we knew that there was something else going on. The answer to that is right up there, foveal focus. Okay? If your fovea is pointed within 24 degrees of whatever it is, you can still see it in your periphery, right? Because you can use your peripheral vision. And that's what you're seeing here, is she doesn't have to bring her fovea all the way down because this is within 24 degrees of her visual field, of the center of her fovea. So that's why you get that pattern. Took us a couple minutes to figure that one out, a little bit of panic, but we got to it. Okay, so another question that we might ask is not only what do we attend to, but why do we attend to it? Okay, so there are certain aspects of a stimulus that will, and I'm throwing that out there, stimulus. By stimulus, I'm talking about whatever it is that we're looking at out there in the environment, okay? So what is it that we're looking at, and why are we looking at it? Okay, some stimuli actually will grab our attention. there's something inherent within that stimulus that draws us to it. Say, for example, there is a siren and a red flashing light in your rearview mirror. Okay, both of those things are called exogenous stimuli. They're grabby. The reason there's that red flashing light is very specific. It gets your attention, and it has meaning. It means move over, get out of the way. Okay. There are other kinds of stimuli that are different in their orientation. We can do goal-directed types of processing. We can look at things because we have a purpose for looking at them. So those are two different kinds of things that actually drive how we allocate our attentional resources. Now with attention, anybody in here who tries to listen to your music and study at the same time, give it up. Now, it does not work. I actually had a student challenge me on this when I asked him to take off his headset in class yesterday. And I said, you cannot attend to that as well as this. He said, well, how do you know? And I thought, really? You're going to throw down on me? Okay. So I gave him chapter and verse and told him actually in psychology it's called dichotomous listening, and you can't attend to what's going on in one place and the other place at the same time. Your attention switches back and forth, and so you're missing pieces out of each of the things that you're trying to do. So don't do that. It's counterproductive. It's not helping you. Okay, so let's do a little bit of a test. Here are two signatures, also from our study. What do you notice about these two signatures? Very different. Really different. So you notice right away that according to our definitions, one is this one over here is a text-based signature. That one there is a stylized signature, very stylized signature. Okay, what questions come to your mind? Thank you. What does it say? That's the $64 question that everybody asked us when they saw these signatures that were stylized. What's the name? Sorry, we can't tell you that. And there is a good empirical reason for us not telling them that. So, examining these two signatures, did your brain feel a little different? This one is kind of easy. Okay, M. Lene Drake, I get that. Wait, what's this? It's kind of like your brain hit a little wall. Do you guys feel that? Okay. How we interpret those signatures depends on what they are like. And this is determined by top-down and bottom-up bottom-up processing. Okay? When we're doing top-down processing, this is large chunk processing. So you take the larger concept and you work down into the fine details. So you can see over there, what does this look like to you guys? Over here. Bicycle. But really it's not, and you probably can't tell because the slide is a little bit small on this screen. But it actually is parts of a bicycle, and the wheels or the tires are formed by the word tire, 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 tire. Handlebars, top tube, saddle, okay? They're words, but you don't recognize that because the first thing you notice about that is that it is in the shape of a bicycle. That's an example of large chunk top-down processing. You're going from the big picture down to the finer details. Okay? So what about this one over here? What do you guys see?
Potato head.
Potato head. Okay. You guys see the man? Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Do you guys see the rat? Okay. Now, this is a fairly famous illusion. It's called the rat man illusion. And in the research where we actually used this illusion, the rat was presented, this image, ambiguous image, was presented either in the context of a series of faces or a series of animals. And so the people who saw it in the series of faces, when they asked them to identify what that object was, the people who saw it in the faces said, oh, that's a man. The people who saw it in the series of animals said, oh, that's a rat. So context actually determines the way that we can process information. It heavily influences what we do and how we do it. So in the instance of this, we take the little fine details and we work out to the larger image, and context helps determine what we come up with in the end. Okay, so now we're going to do a little exercise where I'm going to actually show you a couple of the signatures that were part of the project, and I want you guys to try to make a call. You make the call. Are these signatures genuine or are they simulated? Now this is the tachistoscope procedure, so you're going to see these signatures for 1 second. Watch very carefully. And then let's see how much information you guys can take out of these signatures. Okay? So here's the way we'll do it. The next slide that you will see is what we refer to as a fixation cross. Put your gaze on the fixation cross, and after 3 seconds, the slide will change and you'll see the view of the signature. After 1 second, the signature will go away. I want you to think in your minds, is this signature genuine or simulated? Okay, are you ready? Okay, don't blink. 3 seconds. 1. That's all you get. Okay, hold that thought. Hold that thought. Okay. On a scale of 1 to 4, these are our follow-up questions. Would you say that the signature is genuine or simulated? They would respond. And then we would ask them on a scale of 1 to 4, 1 being not at all confident, 4, how confident would you be in this decision? And they would give us one of those confidence levels. Okay? Let's do it again. Okay, how'd you guys feel about that one? Did you feel that kind of smack in the brain where you thought, wait, what's going on? Okay. Is it genuine or simulated? Okay. How confident? Some people are the document examiners are, not at all. Yeah, we call that the high pucker factor. Okay. Not at all. Okay, so now once we get those data, what do we do with them? How do we figure out how to make sense with them? Okay, what in the world is that? Okay, those are more gaze plots. These are for the single signatures. These are what we call raw data. These are unfiltered data. So all the dots are the same size, and as you can see in the unfiltered data, there are a lot of there are differences that you can see about how we handle these things. Okay, these are gaze plots from 3 examiners. Okay, these are real data that you're looking at. Okay, guy over here on the left side for you, right side for me, really kind of thoroughly smothered that signature. And you can actually track, if you look at the recording, you can actually play back these recordings and you can track as they very carefully and slowly are going over these signatures. Okay? But you can still see that there are areas where those plots, the dots, are piling up. Okay? Guy number 2, there in the center, is taking a somewhat different approach. Now these numbers down here represent the number of dots that are in each of those signatures. And Dr. Freeman back there is going, because that's 1,200 data points for one signature. Ouch. That's a lot of data for one signature. Okay? This guy does just over half as many. Okay? This one is almost the same as that, but you can see that the attention is focused a little bit differently. Okay? So when we overlap them, you can begin to see where the dots are piling up. And it's where these dots are piling up all together that are going to give us the information that we will analyze to determine which of the features that are contained in that signature are the most valuable for the examiners. Yike. Okay. Dr. Freeman says, hurry up. Okay? Same thing here, raw data, 7,000 fixations over there. That guy beat that signature up. Okay? Half as many, and then, way fewer. Okay? We filter these data so that they make more sense. When they're filtered, this is what they look like. Okay, we focus on certain aspects, and I'll tell you what those are if you guys are interested. But now you can begin to get a more clear picture about where those guys were going with their eyes and what they were doing. Okay, we can know on the basis of the TOBI data how often you went there, how long you stayed there, the order in which you viewed those, so we can pick out what seemed to be most important to you simply by where you went first. And when we overlap them, you begin to see those patterns emerge. Okay, same thing here. When we analyze these data, this is just another way of looking at the data. These are called heat maps for obvious reasons. They're kind of like a weather map, and where the red is, that's where people's attention were being focused. And in the center there, the signatures have those squares interposed over certain features. Those are called areas of interest. So once we identify these, we can put boxes around them and we can analyze those data separately. So how did our document examiners do? I was thinking maybe 50-50. How much can you tell looking at a signature for 1 second? I was wrong. On the basis of those, they got 70% right. They called it 70% of the time. Okay? That it differed a little bit with respect to whether you were looking at the tachistoscope view or the extended view. So what we saw on the basis of that, okay, here are each of the individual signatures, was that across all 1,638 calls that were made in this particular protocol, 70.9% of them were accurate. They missed 29.1. And we wanted to know if that was greater than chance agreement, because there is that 50-50 factor. People could just be guessing and still get it right. So we did a kappa statistic, and we determined that moderate agreement existed. So that's still pretty good. It's not high, but taking away the chance agreement, still, we came out with pretty good agreement. Okay. Broken down now into the tachistoscope views and the extended views. You can see for the 1 second view, the accuracy was just a little bit lower. Still fairly good, 67.8%. Only fair agreement after we took away the chance agreement. With the extended view, we went up to 74%. So breaking those two things out made a difference. And you can see here that some individuals, the green bars are the ones they got correct. The orange bars are the ones that they got incorrect. And you can see that after viewing the signature in the tachistoscope view, when they saw the extended view, some of the examiners actually said, no, wait, change my mind, and would change it over to the correct direction instead. So there really is quite a lot you can tell just on the information that you can get out of a single signature. That's really pretty amazing when you think about it. Okay? Implications for this research. If we can understand how examiners do what they do, then we are able to develop relevant training, and it helps us to identify those skills that, or talents that people may have that are really relevant to this field, that will enable us to do better training exercises. This is actually a demonstration of expertise. You can see over there on the light blue one That is a layperson who is examining those signatures. These are all fully qualified examiners, the other three. And so you can see that there is something going on there with respect to skill and training or motivation. But there are differences between lay people and professional examiners. Okay? The limitations of our study: every time you report your data, you have to address the weaknesses in the data. So here are some of them. We're doing this in the lab. Examiners have a lot of tools that they use that we're constrained in the lab. 2 minutes, okay. We're constrained in the lab. We have to do stuff that we can put on the screen, and so it's difficult for them to equate that to what they do out in the real world. So the next thing that we would want to do is take this into the laboratory. Okay. Future directions for research: we might want to continue our research with expertise. We want to continue to look at how they do the comparison process, and we're actually going to want to continue to study their judgment, how they make their judgments based on this. Contact information, there we are. If you want to find us, you guys know where we are. Any questions in the 30 seconds that we have left? Comments, rebuttals? If you're interested in working in the lab, we welcome you to join us this great research experience. Thank you very much.